Good evening and welcome to this January 14th regular City Commission. Welcome to the new year. Glad everybody made it through the holidays safe and sound. If we could begin with an approval of the agenda. There are no changes tonight. It's nice.
Motion to approve.
I have a motion from Commissioner Herson, a second from Commissioner Martin. Are there any questions about the agenda from the dais? Any questions or comments about the agenda from the public? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously. I'd like to invite Minister Sharon Cheeseburg from the Gateway Christian Center. She's here tonight to give us our invocation. We appreciate you coming down on this chilly night to bless our meeting. If you would all rise, and then please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance afterwards.
Thank you, Heavenly Father, for this opportunity. We give you the praise and honor. Lord God, you are our keeper. You are our protector. You are our provider. Thank you that you are the God of peace for all mankind. As the commissioners and the administrators and the citizens come committed together for the good of our city government, Lord, we come and they come in purpose. They come in agreement for better conditions, for laws and for regulation. Lord, I pray that this meeting to be led by the Holy Spirit and all the decisions be made. And Lord, that wisdom will prevail. And we give you the glory and the honor in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Minister Cheeseburg. That was beautiful. We appreciate it. All right, we'll move on to our presentations. Mr. Manager, you have an employee spotlight to share with the Commission?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And yes, I do. I'd like to introduce Tammy Snyder. She's with us tonight. And, you know, we do this once a month, and I always introduce a staff person that is a native Newberryan. And technically, Tammy's not a native Newberryan. She's a Newberryan by marriage. She married a native Newberryan, and but has really adapted well. Tammy comes to us after 32 years with Gainesville Regional Utilities. She doesn't just have experience; she has expertise in customer service. So she's got a very, very long tenured background in utilities. She's been a real asset to our customer service department. She brings a lot of knowledge about customer service and has a lot of insights into telecommunications, which really helps us out as we struggle with issues like broadband. So as I mentioned, Tammy's a Newberryan by marriage. Her husband's Jerry Harris, who's lived here his entire life, and outside of work, Tammy's very active as a volunteer with the Newberry FFA and Veterans Group, and she's also an avid outdoors person. You know, she likes to fish and hunt and do those outdoor types of activities, so she's kind of a perfect fit for Newberry. Anyway, I'd like to introduce you to Tammy Snyder, our customer service supervisor.
Come on down, Miss Tammy. It has been great having you as part of the team.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you.
Did you want to say anything to the Commission?
Just, you know,
Rousing 10, 15-minute speech?
no. I just, you know, I hope that the contributions that I've made, that I continue to make, and, you know, Newberry really is my home. And, you know, one of the things that I like about Newberry and about being in the public power industry is the fact that, you know, we have stakeholders, not stockholders, and every customer who comes in no one is any less important than anyone else, and we're striving to get to a point where we're problem solvers. Not everybody hears what they want to hear, but you know, I think with some discussion and treating people as human beings, and that, you know, that we're able to make Newberry a better place.
Well, this Commission and this manager have been beating the drum of customer service for years, and you certainly have come in and knocked that out of the park. So we appreciate it, and the decorations that you do for the gatherings are just icing on the cake, but they are beautiful as well.
I
Yes.
can't take credit for that. My sidekick
Well, you
Tracy
got a
back
committee,
there.
yeah. It's been wonderful having you on, and
Thank you.
not welcome to Newberry because you've been here, but welcome to the team.
Thank you.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate it.
We appreciate it. Okay, we'll move on. As we all know, we have Martin Luther King Jr. Day coming up on us this Monday. I'm sure there'll be some further announcements as the meeting progresses. But before we get to that day, we'd like to go ahead and read a proclamation recognizing Martin Luther King Day. And the ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands in moments of comfort and convenience, but where he stands at times of challenge and controversy. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Whereas Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. devoted his life to the advancement of civil rights and public service, he believed in a nation of freedom and justice for all citizens and challenged each of us to live up to the purpose and potential of America. And whereas the King Day of Service, which falls on January 21st this year, is a time for the citizens of Newberry to recognize Dr. King's teachings on advancing equality and opportunity for everyone by contributing their own time and talents in a day of service. And whereas in Newberry, Florida, we focus on bringing people together and breaking down the barriers that have divided us. And whereas Dr. King's faith and his love for humanity led him and so many other leaders to courageously stand up for the civil rights of African Americans, through his bravery and sacrifice, Dr. King stirred our hearts to recognize the dignity written in every human soul. Today, we mourn his loss, we celebrate his legacy, and we pledge to fight for his dream of equality, freedom, justice, and peace. Now, therefore, I, Jordan Marlowe, Mayor of the City of Newberry, do hereby recognize January 1st, 2019 as Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day in the City of Newberry and encourage the citizens to observe this day in the spirit of Dr. King's life. Be it proclaimed by an affirmative vote of the majority of quorum present of the City Commission of the City of Newberry, Florida, at regular meeting this 14th day of January 2019. And we don't actually usually vote on commission on proclamations, but we will tonight since it's written into the proclamation. Do I have a... Did I say January 21st? January 21st. May I have a vote to approve the proclamation since it's written in? Motion by Commissioner Glanzer. Second by Commissioner Hersom. Any questions from the dais? Any questions from the public? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion approved unanimously. And we'll make sure we change the wording on that in the future. Thank you so much. And January 21st will be MLK Day. We'll begin the ceremonies here in Newberry by gathering on City Hall lawn, where we will then march to our MLK building. We'll have a route, we'll have water, we'll have gators for anyone who may tire or fatigue along the way. And then we have dinner, lunch is being provided, and we have a wonderful course of speakers. Our keynote speaker is Representative Clovis Watson this year. And I believe it depends on how long people take on the march. So the march starts at 11:30. Lunch and the ceremony is probably between 12:15. We'll get started on there. So we're hoping for a great turnout this year. We'll have the unveiling of the video from November 18th, where we had 12 pastors from 12 different churches participate in blanketing Newberry with a sermon of unity and community and brotherly love. So we'll put that together, and so we're looking forward to a wonderful MLK Day. All right, and with that, we will move on to public announcements. These are the non-controversial 2-minute type announcements that you have to make if you want to let us know about a garage sale, you lost your dog. If you need a little bit more time, there'll be another opportunity for public comments at the end of the night. And the chair recognizes Mr. Marlin. Good evening, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners. I am Ronald Gay, Library Manager with the Newberry Library with the Alachua County Library District. There are a few things I would like to bring to your attention. First, the deadline to apply for the Spring High School Internship Program is this Friday. Just to remind y'all, this is a paid internship at the library, 10 hours per week over a 9-week period. Is for juniors or seniors who are at least 16 years of old.
What time is the deadline?
The deadline is when we close at 5 p.m.
Okay,
Friday.
I'll have about 10 kids there at 4:58. That's the way it works. Yeah.
I hope so. We had a wonderful intern last semester, and I know we've gotten one application already in for this semester, and I'm looking forward to get a couple more. This weekend we also have a great program for writers. It is called Publish Your First Book in 2019. Mr. Ed Wilson, who's a Newberry resident, has published more than a dozen books and will share his expertise on how to plot, structure, in detail to write your first book, and that's going to be at 11 a.m. this Saturday, January the 19th. Please check your calendar, our calendar at www.aclib.us/Newberry for more programs and events that are coming up in February and March. And I ask that you please share these 2 items with your constituents.
Thank you, sir. Any other citizen comments?
Joy Glanzer, citizen. I'm very excited to make this announcement tonight. Karen Burris, who's the pastor at the United Methodist Church in Newberry, is out of town, so I'm here to make it on her behalf. Starting on January 27th at 5 o'clock, Sunday afternoon, and every Sunday from now till at least this whole year, there'll be a community dinner at the Martin Luther King Center. It'll be a full meal, including dessert. All are invited to eat. There's no strings attached. There's no cost. We want to share the abundance of what we have in our community and get to know our friends and neighbors by breaking bread together. So this is a brand new event. Like I said, it starts Sunday, 2 weeks from Sunday at 5 o'clock, and every single Sunday. Martin Luther King Center, all are invited, and it sounds too good to be true. It's free. Like I said, no strings attached. We hope to see you there, and thank you.
Thank you for that. That sounds like a wonderful program. It really is great to have churches get involved like that and just feed the people, not ask anything in return, just provide some food. Any other citizen announcements? Okay. Hearing none, we will move on to the consent agenda. I have a motion to approve the consent agenda. I have a motion by Commissioner Farnsworth, a second by Commissioner Martin. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passes unanimously, and we will move on to public hearings and ordinances. Madam Attorney, would you go ahead and read the first one, item A, into the record for us, please?
So, this is the first reading of ordinance 2019-02, an ordinance of the City of Newberry, Florida, amending ordinance number 4-91 as amended, relating to amendments to the text of the City of Newberry Comprehensive Plan under the regular amendment procedures established in sections 163.3161 through 163.3215 Florida statutes, relating to solar farm development by amending policies 1.6.1.2, 1.6.2.2, 1.6.2.3, and 1.6.4.1 of the future land use element of the comprehensive plan, providing severability, repealing all ordinances in conflict, and providing an effective date.
Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
I have a motion from, I missed it. Who was it? From Commissioner Coleman, a second from Commissioner Martin. All right, Brian, you want to give us a presentation?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A couple months back, the staff came to the commission for direction on whether or not the commission would be interested in making amendments to our comprehensive plan and land development regulations that would make it easier to develop solar farms in the City of Newberry. Commission provided the guidance, gave us the go-ahead to come back with some draft language, which we have done. It was heard at last month's board meeting, and this is the first opportunity to bring the first reading of those proposed amendments forward to the Commission for your consideration. Just brief review. The solar farms we're talking about, the photovoltaic style, where they're collecting energy in panels, have very low impacts on the land, don't use a lot of water, generally fully automated, even the ones that follow the sun. It's all based on sensors that they move on their own. They're usually, it says low to the ground, 900 foot or less, but we've been informed the ones that are automated might be a little higher, up to 15 feet. And they typically meet or exceed the Florida wind load requirements, as evidenced by some of them that survived the hurricanes down in South Florida recently without any. The only damage they were reported to have sustained was from objects from the outside coming in, damaging the panels when they struck the panels. Benefits to the local community, of course. It diversifies the local ad valorem tax base. There would potentially be some job creation for maintenance opportunities of the panels and the grounds. Obviously, it's emission-free energy generation, which contributes to sustainable energy reliance. And then potentially, you can do grazing and things on them. Some of the farms are allowing that, so you can have multi-use on the same property, and at the end of 20, 25, 30 years, the land can be reclaimed. They don't sink concrete posts in the ground or anything. They drive the posts into the ground, and then they pull them right back, extract them back out when the useful lifetime is over, and they want to convert it back to agricultural land, agricultural use. So we took a look at the different areas that we think should be amended for the comprehensive plan, and this is actually two items. The first item is the comprehensive plan amendments. The second item will be a land development regulation amendment. Basically, each of the policy amendments just allows for solar farms as an allowable use in specific categories, and so under 5.6.1.2 would be on corporate park and industrial use, land use classifications. I.6.2.2 would allow for them under planned developments. I.623 in planned developments outside the urban or the transportation project enhancement area. We have a couple of different planned development categories, and so this covers both of those. The third category, which is in the historic district, that would not be allowable in the comp plan, at least that would be our recommendation. And then 641 would add to agricultural and public land use classification, which is probably the most likely scenario of where they would go, is because of our extensive agricultural lands in the city of Newberry corporate limits. There you go. I did want to point out under I.6.4.1, when it was presented to the Planning and Zoning Board, they wanted to make a small change to the proposed language that we were adding. So whereas originally it said, and the production of alternative and or renewable energy sources, including photovoltaic solar energy sources, they recommended that we remove the alternative and or renewable energy sources and specify that it would be electricity generated from photovoltaic solar energy facilities. And their major concern there was that it wouldn't somehow allow for a large-scale power plant not based on photovoltaic systems.
Well, it ain't gonna work in silviculture areas either.
Yeah.
You know, that's planted pines.
Planted pines.
I don't know why that would be in there. Of course, unless the pines aren't gonna grow up high.
Well, Mr. Mayor, I think their concern was just that we weren't inadvertently allowing for a more intensive use, like a biofuels facility, manufacturing facility out in agriculture. They wanted to specify that we were limiting this to solar collection facilities. And so, basically, your discussion, sir.
So, Brian, when I saw that change, and particularly the striking of alternative or other renewals, so we're now being very specific about solar, and to the exclusion of anything else, say wind or anything like that. Was that considered in that striking of that language?
I think their primary concern, Mr. Mayor, was they didn't want to have say for instance, an alcohol production from corn facility, which is a more heavily industrial use. They didn't want to inadvertently allow that on ag land. I don't think that really the board considered, and there was no discussion about wind alternatives or whatever, but I can tell you from working with folks who cite the wind turbines in previous life that this is not an area that would ever be conducive to wind generation turbines.
Right, and
So-
yeah, I would agree with that. I was just, so if we would look at any other alternative, we'd have to essentially make another special exemption or something like that for something other than photoelectric. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Brian, is your staff's opinion that's a necessary change, or is the alternative, because I don't remember staff kicking back too hard at that suggestion, but we didn't, the P&Z, we didn't really discuss. It was just, that seemed pretty broad to the P&Z, but I
Mr.
don't
Mayor,
remember you giving an opinion.
I didn't think it really, I think the overall intent was to make it easier for solar photovoltaic type systems to locate in the community, and so didn't really think that that was a substantial change that would alter the intent of where we were trying to go with this.
Okay.
And so staff didn't really have a problem with changing the language to be a little bit more specific. The only other thing that it might prevent, because it is specific to photovoltaic solar generation, was if you had some, there are different types of solar generating facilities that are based on heat. But typically those are located out in the desert areas where you have even hotter than here in the summertime. And so what's being installed all over Florida right now is pretty specific to photovoltaic systems.
Commissioner Lancer?
Out of just a curiosity, why did they retire them after 20 to 30 years and not just replace them with new panels?
Mr. Mayor, they could have that option, depending on whether they purchase the land or have a lease agreement for a certain fixed period of time. I imagine as long as the panels are still efficiently generating electricity and it's less to operate, they'll continue. Assuming technology continues to improve, they probably at some point 20 to 30 years out reach their effective useful life and would either be replaced with more efficient panels, or if technology has surpassed photovoltaic, there may be yet another system out there that the market has moved towards. They might pull them up because of that.
For so many years, they could have it as long as they want under that lease. Okay.
Hey, Brian?
And so your topics for discussion really are this is a suggestion that would allow for solar farms by right in the categories that land use categories that we've listed. Basically, once they're allowed by right, then the only bite you get at the apple is during site plan application review. And this is actually the approach that staff thinks is appropriate, especially for like large-scale agricultural plots where they want to put these in. But alternatively, if the commission wanted to maintain more control, then over the process, then it could be done on a case-by-case basis by special exception, like several other land use endeavors are.
There. Is this the only topic you want them to discuss tonight?
Yes, Mr.
Pretty
Mayor.
much. Okay. So thoughts? If it's by right, speeds the process. You guys say this is applicable. Staff can take it from there, and you guys see it when they come in with the details. Special exception, much more drawn out. Has to go to P&Z first, then it comes to you for 2 readings for special exception. For the second. So it's kind of a question of, is this something that's low impact and you want to, if someone wants to do this, make it to where it's possible, or is this something that you want to have a heavy hand in from beginning to end? Commissioner Glancy?
My feeling is that we're an agricultural community, and if I would rather do it by right than have to look at each one as it comes along. I mean, if we're going to let people grow crops, this seems to be a similar use. I mean, it doesn't have any much impact on the surrounding areas, and if we have a bite at the apple on, at the end, if it does impact their neighbor, then we can talk about it. But I would be inclined to say let's make it a right.
Commissioner Farnsworth?
I'm just curious, what kind of negatives are there associated with by right?
Basically, if Mr. Bear, if there were some plots of land that maybe the community cherished as aesthetically important or something, and the owners decided they wanted to contract with a solar company, then the commission wouldn't necessarily have the ability to say you can't put those there. And that's another consideration too, is that as a reminder, these have to be located where there's a substantial transmission line in very close proximity, so that they can tap into that and put the solar energy generated onto the grid. And so while there's a large swath of Newberry that would qualify for that, because we have the Duke transmission line that runs through, and also the line on the western end, it wouldn't necessarily be appropriate for all of the land in Newberry. It's still going to have to be fairly close to one of those transmission lines.
Considerations? Commissioner Morgan?
My tendency is always to allow the property owner to do what they feel appropriate on their own property. So, I mean, having to go through 15 hoops doesn't really make any sense to me. I think the prevailing wisdom on the board, if you want to call it that, would be to promote and approve these kind of things anyway, so I don't think we really need the extra steps.
Other thoughts? Okay, sounds like you have a majority that will say by right. Is that the end of your presentation, Mr. Thomas?
For the comprehensive plan amendments, yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, we have a motion. Do we need to go back and amend the motion to say by right, or was that in the motion?
Mr. Mayor, it's inherent in the ordinance.
It's inherent in the ordinance. Okay. All right. Public comments on the motion on the floor.
Good evening. I'm Craig Brazier with CHW. I would just like to encourage you to advance and approve the changes as staff has presented them. I work with some of energy providers as our clients, and we help them site facilities, and I can tell you that Newberry is an area of interest, and this would definitely improve the city's chances of getting a project like this, because timing is very important when it comes, and so by getting a lot of this out of the way would be extremely beneficial. So both the comp plan and the land development regulations, I would encourage you to approve as staff is proposing.
Some guy in a libertarian shirt's coming down to
dang
the
old libertarians always turning up from the least
podium.
suspected. How you doing, Mayor?
I'm wonderful.
Commissioners,
How are you?
good to see everybody again. Staff, how you doing? Yes, thank you. I'd actually come to speak later in public comment, but this intrigued me, so I thought I'd give you a piece of my mind. You know how we are as political activists and whatnot. I'm Chris Rose II, native of Alachua County, born and raised, director at large too, Libertarian Party of Florida. Please, again, this wasn't even why I come to talk here today, but y'all have intrigued me about a little bit of this discussion. I wanted to just encourage you briefly to pass this as recommended by staff. Please give a nod to the free market, respect private property. Thank you very much.
You can make libertarians happy. You've done something good now. Okay, hearing no other comment, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Yes, unanimously. All right, Madam Attorney, would you please read our public hearing ordinance item B into the record for us?
Yes, sir. This is the first reading of ordinance 2019-03, an ordinance of the City of Newberry, Florida, amending the text of the City of Newberry Land Development Regulations as amended to amend sections 2.1 definitions, 4.4a agricultural, 4.17i industrial, 4.18 PRRD planned rural residential development, and 4.21 PD planned development, relating to establishing standards for the development of solar farms and establishing allowable zoning districts, providing severability, repealing all ordinances in conflict, and providing an effective date.
I have a motion to approve the ordinance as read. So moved. I have a motion from Commissioner Martin, and then before the motion dies, an addition. Do I have a second? Second from Commissioner Hersom. Okay, so the motion made it to the floor. And we'll wait for staff to do their last minute. It's always good to have a little conversation, make sure you got things right. We have a motion properly seconded on the floor, and Brian is ready to take it away.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Okay, this is the second portion of the amendments necessary. This is the land development regulations, which are the implementing feature of from the comp plan. This would amend sections 2.1, 4.2, 4.17, 4.18, and 4.21, 4.4. Under 2.1, that's the definition section. It defines the solar energy facility, what a solar farm is, and defines what a solar energy system is comprised of. Section 4.2, under our supplementary district regulations, 4.2.40 solar energy facilities, it specifies which allowable zoning districts they can fall in, permitted supporting facilities, different performance standards as far as things like buffering, landscaping, provides for density, parking, and height restrictions like other zoning category uses, provides for access ways to structures, and then procedure for site and development plan approval. Section 4.17 is the category under industrial. Again, it adds solar energy facilities as a permitted use, defines what the accessory uses and structures can be in there. Same with 4.18, which is planned rural residential development. Same for 4.21, planned development. And then 4.4, agricultural. And so again, the discussion topics are essentially the same, which is, does the commission want to maintain the right to approve these by special exception, or would they prefer the right to make them allowable by right, which then they would only come forward for review for site and development plan approval. Yes, sir.
If anyone has had a change of heart in the last 30 seconds, you can speak now. Otherwise, we'll open it up to the floor for public comment. Hearing none. And this, by right, is also inherent in the ordinance.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passed unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Thomas. Appreciate you keeping us straight. Okay, Ms. Judy, will you please take us through the 2019 election qualifying period? I can't believe it's already time again. It seems like we do this every year. Oh, yeah, because we do this every year. Okay. Go ahead. Take it away.
Okay, we'll be bringing the election proclamation before you at the January 28th meeting. That's why we have to address this. We need to address this tonight. Last year, you all decided we know what the window is for qualifying. Not more than 60 days, not less than 30 days prior to the election. Last year, you voted or either agreed upon the 2 weeks.
2-week qualifying period.
Right.
And they happened at the beginning of the
Right.
old qualifying period. So
Right.
we had 2 weeks, and then ostensibly sort of 2 weeks off, and then 4 weeks of campaigning.
Right.
Which ended up just being 6 weeks of campaigning.
And I provided a calendar. Let's see. And
Our election day is April 9th. Is that right, Ms. Judy?
that is correct. Tuesday, April the 9th. And 60 days prior to our election is Monday, February the 11th. 30 days is Thursday, March the 7th. So that window, anywhere within that window.
So if we had 30 days is March the 7th, 30 days before election is March the 7th. So if we wanted to do qualifying 2 weeks before that, we would count back another 14 days.
Right, I have my calendar here.
Bring it to
So that would make qualifying open on February 18th. Mr.
Point of clarification. Just a point of clarification. I think I was confused when I did some math some time ago. 30 days prior is going to be March the 11th, not the 7th. I think I mistold Judy.
Ah,
way back when.
that actually makes more sense. I was
The
counting.
end of qualifying?
No,
30
no.
days prior is March the 10th, which is a Sunday.
You go back
So
after
you have to
that
go
for
back
qualifying.
to the Thursday that we're
Qualifying
here.
starts what date? I'm
So that's what we're here to find out right now. So we could start qualifying on February, is it 11th? And it'd be still a 2-week qualifying period, or we could start qualifying on
25th.
the 25th and still have the 2-week qualifying period and still have the 4-week or the 30 days of campaigning. So the question is, we used to have 30 days of campaigning, 30 days of qualifying. Last year, we said the qualifying period is too long. We reduced it to 2 weeks of qualifying, but we left the 60-day window. So the question,
6 weeks is too long, Mr. Mayor. I agree. It needs to be shortened up.
I think, from my perspective, a lot of folks, they get a little bit fatigued by all of the campaigning. By the time election time comes around, you still have 6 weeks of campaigning, because once if you know you're going to run, once you qualify, you're free to start campaigning at that point in time. So you still have 6 weeks to ostensibly campaign.
What's that dead week, 2 weeks? I don't understand why you need that.
Well, last year was a new year for shortening it, so I think it was a baby step, right?
Can we take it out, I'll vote to take it out?
That's what you're doing right now. That's what's on the floor right now, is to ask, do you want to go back? We've got to go back to 30 days, so you're back to March 11th for the 30 days. The question is, do you want to go back 2 weeks and make that the qualifying period, and then you have your 30 days campaign, or do you want to stick it with the first 2 weeks of that qualifying period? I've heard 2 people say, move it to the second 2 weeks of the old
Eliminate
qualifying.
the 2 weeks in
Right.
between. Yes, that would be, however you want to say that.
That would be.
I would start on the 25th.
So qualifying would open on the 25th, and for everybody that's listening at home, remember we're on 4/10, so Friday we're closed. And I'll let, March 25th would be the qualifying date. Your last day to qualify then would be March 7th. Is that correct, Ms. Judy? I'm sorry, February 25th.
Okay.
I misspoke.
Right,
So
February
February
25th.
25th would open up qualifying
Right.
to March 7th.
And
And
we
can you take us through the procedures to ensure that everybody that wants to qualify, because we did something special last year.
It will be available probably by tomorrow.
Okay.
I'm not sure if it will be on the website, instructions, but I do always caution our candidates or someone that may be interested, please do not expend any expenditures or solicit contributions prior to filling out the DSDE 9. That must be done. Even if you are required to file that with the city clerk, and then you can open a campaign account.
Okay. So qualifying will open up the 25th. We encourage you, please, for our city staff's sake, if you're thinking about running, please don't wait until March 7th to announce it. If you've messed up anything on the paperwork, there will be no time for you to fix it. And our staff, because they're kind-hearted, they will stay here, try to help you right up until, but it's a whole lot easier if you make up your mind and you just go ahead and qualify, and it gives you 2 extra weeks to get your campaigning done. And Ms. Judy, I believe we have discovered a state law that we need to adhere with, so to run for city commission in the city of Newberry is 1% of your salary.
Hold on,
No,
I'm not sure.
4% of the salary.
It will be, your qualifying will consist of 4%, 1% by Florida statute will be returned to, or will go to the Elections Commission. 3% will be, will come into our general fund.
So it's no longer $110, $11 now, it's $423, is that right, Miss Judy? Hang on one second, let me get this number. Just I want to make sure everybody understands, because I know a lot of people think, well, I could probably, for $100 I might be able to run, but it's now.
I left that on my desk because I didn't know when we were going, I wasn't prepared, but
I
I'll
didn't mean to
get
throw
that
you.
real quick for
That's
you.
okay. It's about
It's
400
400.
and
It is
it's a little
400.
over $400 to run. So just if you are thinking about rerunning or running, it's going to cost you $400. And my question, Miss Judy, is I know a lot of municipalities in the county, they have if you you can either pay the qualifying cost or you can go collect a certain number of petitions to segue that, do we have an option like that available for the commission, a policy for them to institute?
Not in the municipality. We do have a form, and that is also in the paperwork that I have prepared that you can fill out, and you can be exempt from the 1%, and that your affidavit will be sent to the Elections Commission, but there's not an out for the 3%. And when I say 1%, 3%, we're talking about the annual salary of a commissioner and/or mayor as of July 1st of the prior year. So you have to go back to July 1. So it is 400, and I'm sure
It was like $419, something like
Right.
that, when I did the math. Commissioner Glanzer?
I have a question. So we can't open an account until after we qualify. So those funds, if we pay them out of our pocket, how do we show that in the,
Commissioner
it was
Glanz-
confusing to me
That's
last
okay.
time.
Commissioner Glanzer, you can open up a campaign account. You just have to file the DSDE-9 with the city clerk. You cannot qualify, but you can have a campaign account, and at that point you can solicit contributions and you can have expenditures. You will be required to turn in the reports. And I have like I said, I have the whole step-by-step this year that will walk you through it. I can help you through it.
As you always do.
You
Commissioner Cox
do.
has
You've
one
been
more
so
question.
helpful, and because it was so confusing to me, this is why I'm asking again. So we can open an account prior to qualifying, but we can't collect donations until we qualify. Is that true?
You can collect donations as long
Before
as
you
you
qualify.
as long as you have a campaign account.
Gotcha. Okay.
As long as you
thank
have filed that with me.
The campaign account.
There's also another form that is due within 10 days of doing that, but by that time you're probably qualifying anyway, and that's also in the, I was very sure to kind of put step by step, but I think the most issues we have is that filing that DSDE-9 with the city clerk.
And if anybody has questions, we don't need to, if anybody has questions, Miss Judy will sit down with you and she'll walk you all through that. So I wasn't meaning to try to get us down a rabbit hole tonight. I wanted to make sure we had the dates right and that everybody who is thinking about running again knows, you might be a high school teacher or something, and you might actually have to start saving money to make that. Do we need a motion or just a head nod of what the dates will be? I think you'll put it in writing and then you come back to it.
Right. Well, it will be on the proclamation that you will read.
There we go.
That you will present. So my understanding is it will still be an 8-day qualifying period. Are we going to start at noon on the first day and end at noon on the last day as we did last year? Was there issues that?
I think that worked well.
So, and that will also be on the proclamation. It will stipulate that the hours except for the first day and the last day. Okay.
We don't need one, right? We're going to have a proclamation. Go ahead. Question.
What's the, after they qualify, what's the shortest period between the election and qualifying is legal?
30 days.
Has to be a total of 30 days? Okay.
Has to be more than 30. It can't be less than 30
You're in agreement? We don't need that.
or more than 60.
Okay.
Okay, all right, so qualifying opens February 25th, closes March 7th, and our election is April 9th. If you're thinking about running, first thing you do is sit down with Miss Judy, and she'll keep you straight. She'll walk you through the entire process. Are there any further questions from the dais? Any questions from the public?
Citizen Newberry. Question, Mr. Mayor, I run the Newberry Florida Politics Facebook page. It's not run by city staff or anybody on the dais. It's run by me solely and an honorable commission from before. Question we've had is the debates. Debates have been very useful. However, they seem to be very long into the process. I didn't know if this is something that could be entertained a little earlier on once we have who's qualified with the city, who's on the ballots. We did it, I think, last week, like a week or two right before elections. A lot of people had already mailed in their ballots, per se. Actually, I think the deadline to mail in was actually one of the debates took place on the deadline to mail in the ballots, and one of my neighbors that actually mails in his ballots was saying this would have been great to had this debate before, so he could have made a better decision on who he wanted as a candidate. Didn't know if that was something to entertain or if that would be possible.
The student government at Newberry High School runs the debates, and generally the way that we've done it is we've simply tried to coordinate with everyone's schedule. I think last year was the first year where we just set dates because I think at one year we had 3 or 4 people running for one seat,
Right.
and then every seat was contested. So we were trying to schedule, between 12 different people, and it was just tough. I think it's a good marker to say the last debate has to happen before the possibility of run to mail in. I think that's a
At
good.
least a mail in, just to give them.
I think what your comment has prompted me to think is if, and I don't mean this in any way to be rude, but if you're considering running for the commission, I know it's a part-time job, but it's a full-time commitment. So if you put your hat in the ring and then you get an invitation from the student government and says, your debate night is Tuesday night at 7 o'clock, well, your choice is either to come and attend or to say no, that you can't, because at some point trying to schedule all of this is just too difficult, especially when you've got 3 seats that you've got to schedule and you're trying to get them done beforehand. So I would just encourage everybody to think about running, to think about the time commitment that you're making. And it's not just the campaign time, and if you're successful, it's the time that happens up here. So I'll take that suggestion absolutely to heart and pass it on to the student body president and find out what our last mail-in date is and make sure that it happens at least a couple of days before that. And then if everybody's thinking about running, just keep that in mind when we send out those invitations, that these are kind of hard dates to, Monday's not a good night because we have our business. Wednesday's a church night. Friday, other people got things that people have other things to do. So that basically gives us Tuesdays and Thursdays to get in, 3 debates. So.
And on the side note, we look forward to the meet and greets and all the businesses that open their doors to our city commissioners and those candidates.
I'm glad you reminded me. I'm going to get right on that. But my suggestion last year, guys, I think I scheduled 5. And my feeling was that ended up being a little bit too much. And again, I don't want to get off on a tangent. We're supposed to be talking about the dates here, but I'm thinking 3. 3 this year, or would you guys rather have 2? They're great for the businesses. We schedule them on a Tuesday night. I think at least having 2 gives people an option. But I had people telling me, well, they looked at the calendar and they picked which one they could make, and there was 5 options. So maybe if we had just 3, that's the 3 Tuesdays before Election Day. We'll get to 3 businesses. Maybe we'll have a better, which takes out a night for knocking on doors and all that kind of stuff.
I,
Yeah.
And you got to work around 3 debates then,
Yeah.
too.
So maybe 2. Yeah. I'll work with the businesses. I know we have some that have put that into their annual tradition, so I'll work with them and get back with you. But we will try to be respectful of everybody's time. Okay, Miss Judy.
I'm sorry, did you say were you asking about the last mailing day for the?
Yes, but we'll get to that later. We don't need it now. I'll just get, when I'm scheduling the debates, we'll get that information out. Okay, any other public comment about the election period? Okay, hearing none, we will move on to item B. Mr. Jones, you're going to lead us through Lift Station 1 relocation.
The item before you is for you to consider a proposed Lift Station 1 relocation agreement with the Alachua County School Board. For a little bit of background, Lift Station 1 is located at Southwest 255th Street, Southwest 2nd Avenue, directly adjacent to the football field. It was constructed in approximately 1976. It's the only dry well lift station that we have in our wastewater system, and receives approximately 50% of the wastewater that the city treats every day. The design and location of this lift station has been problematic, been a maintenance and a regulatory issue. The intersection where it's located floods every time we have a heavy rain event. stormwater ends up in the sanitary sewer system and overflows or overwhelms the system. It's located within approximately 20 foot of occupied dwelling there. And because of the way it's constructed, for us to perform maintenance on this lift station, it requires us to go down 20 foot below grade and do all the maintenance in a confined space. So due to these issues, we programmed into the capital improvement program that will be relocated and converted to a wet well style lift station. Staff has worked with the Alachua County School Board, and they've agreed to deed a 50 by 50 site over to the city of Newberry. That's directly across the intersection to the west, adjacent to the north end of the football field. What we're asking you to do tonight is to authorize the mayor and city manager to execute all the documents necessary to approve this agreement and pass resolution 2019-01 associated with this transaction.
Good. Motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
Do we need to read the Go ahead and read the resolution for me, please.
It's resolution 2019-01, lift station number 1, site relocation agreement with the Alachua County School Board. And the motion would be to pass the resolution by reading the title only.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve from Commissioner Coleman? Second from Commissioner Farnsworth. Questions for staff? Ms. Farber.
The location, is that where the old racquetball or? Okay. And something if I forgot. Anyhow, I was kind of curious as to where it's actually located. Oh, how long will the system be down to transfer everything over to the new one?
Mr. Mayor, we are working with an engineering firm to design and permit the construction as part of this fiscal year's budget. We would actually let the project next fiscal year and award the project. The arrangement would be a bypass pumping arrangement. There would be no downtime to the system. It would basically function as designed with a bypass pump until we could convert into this lift station divert flow.
Commissioner Martin?
Just an educational question, Jamie. What happens with the old one, and what happens with the property that the old one is sitting on? Is that
the old lift station would be decommissioned. If basically all the equipment that we could salvage would be salvaged and reused. We would wreck out the dry well and the wet well that's located in the right-of-way. And I don't know if you're familiar with the location, but what we're getting from the school board is roughly 50 by 50. What we have in that intersection is roughly 10 by 15. We basically have to shut the intersection down to perform maintenance as it is now. It's not exactly the optimal location.
Mr. Mayor, will that small area stay with the city
ownership,
or will
Mr. Mayor, basically continue to be road right-of-way because it was constructed in road right-of-way.
It's got to be the most annoying place if you own that house to have that because you gotta, you gotta park around it. So hopefully we'll able to keep in the roadway, but it'll be no one will have to worry about driving over it. Any other questions for staff on this?
I just want to say I'm happy you're doing this.
Yeah, we've been working on this for a while now. So best thing about pulling that racquetball court down was being able to move it over. Does the public have any questions for staff on relocating? No? Okay, hearing none, I have a motion properly seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passes unanimously, and we are on to city comments. Mr. Manager?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think a couple things. Happy New Year. Happy New Year to everyone. It's our first time getting together. Second, I'm seeking a motion from the board that January is the best month for birthdays. Commissioner Farnsworth, would you? Yeah, that's what I thought. Just wanted to wish Commissioner Farnsworth a happy birthday. Thank you. And to acknowledge that January is the best month for birthdays. Yeah, I don't know if you got one of these crowns, but a resident of Newberry made me a crown
for you
for the day.
Deserving, yes.
So happy birthday. Not to steal the mayor's thunder, are you going to tell them about the governor's inaugural ball? All right, I'll pass. Upcoming dates, we've already covered the MLK celebration, which is Monday the 21st. City offices are also closed on Monday the 21st, but you'll see a lot of city staff around nonetheless. The city charter review meeting, which is scheduled, which normally would have been scheduled for Tuesday the 22nd, has been moved to Wednesday the 23rd at 7 o'clock. I think Amy sent out emails about all that. On January the 24th, Newberry-Jonesville Chamber is conducting its annual banquet at Best Western. It begins at 6 o'clock. I believe all of you have an invitation. Just want to remind you, I hear there is a tremendously dynamic speaker who has stole the mayor's State of the City address and will be preempting him.
And don't forget to RSVP to Amy so we can have you on there.
On Tuesday the 29th, we got a lot of stuff going on in the next couple of weeks. Tuesday the 29th, Alachua County will be conducting an open house for Canterbury. It's going to be here in a municipal building. If you'd like to attend, it's at 7 p.m. That is not required by city land development regulations. Some cities do require neighborhood meetings prior to going through some sort of a application process. The county doesn't require them, and we don't, but the county believes it's a good idea. They want to get that feedback so that they can put it into their application and understand, you know, what the customer sentiment may be, the neighborhood sentiment may be. So that's the basis for it. At 7 p.m. We'll get those advertisements distributed to y'all so you can have it on your calendar in case you'd like to attend. And then on Thursday, February the 7th, the city, in conjunction with the Newberry-Jonesville Chamber of Commerce, will be conducting its State of the City address, annual State of the City address. That's in the municipal building. The address begins at 7. Is preceded at 6:30 by a taste of Newberry-Jonesville. And as my understanding, that an even more dynamic speaker will be giving the same State of the City this discussion that you could hear on Thursday the 24th. See if he can do it better. And of course, I'm kidding. And finally, you all are well aware that the city of Newberry is one of 136 cities that have transmitted letters of interest to become future homes for USDA's ERS, and I can't tell you what that means, or NIFA agencies. I know that it's really good for Newberry.
Economic Research Services.
Thank you.
National Institute of Food and Agriculture.
There you go. Thank you to those of you that are more in the know about USDA than I am. A week or so ago, we got a letter from USDA that says, here are our criteria, 4 criteria for selecting who the shortlist are going to be and then the finalist. And so we prepared an addendum that we transmitted this evening that addresses how Newberry fits into those 4 selection criteria. Very well done addendum. We're really proud of it, and we think this is going to push us over the top to get shortlisted and then become the next home for ERS and NIFA. And I promise to learn what those acronyms mean before the ribbon cutting. And Mr. Mayor, that concludes my comments.
Thank you, sir. Madam Attorney?
Happy New Year, everyone, and thank you for everyone who came out to the ethics training. I think we had a good presentation and a really good time, so we look forward to seeing everyone next time we do it.
And this was your first regular city commission meeting?
It was, yeah.
Well done. You did a great job.
And my
I even threw you a
husband
couple
and son
curveballs.
may be watching at home.
All
I
right.
sent them the YouTube links. So.
Good deal. All right. Well, we welcome you and look forward to having you with us more. Madam Clerk?
Just like to say Happy New Year as well, and happy birthday to our city manager and Commissioner Farnsworth.
Thank you, ma'am. Commissioner Coleman?
Just want to say Happy New Year, and I'm going to give my time to Commissioner Farnsworth so he can talk about the big win with the bowl game with FSU. I know he's got a lot to talk about there, so I'm going to give that to Commissioner Farnsworth. Thank you.
All right. We're all looking forward to hearing that. Commissioner Hurston?
It's good to be back. Happy New Year to everybody, and certainly I will yield the remainder of my time so Commissioner Farnsworth could discuss the FSU bowl game.
Oh, this is going to be a rousing speech. You have a good 30 seconds now.
Thank you. You know, we're Capricorns, right? You know who else was Capricorn? Elvis Presley. And you know who else?
Same birthday.
No, one day before. Jesus Christ was Capricorn. Remember? Chris Christopherson, Jesus was Capricorn. Anyhow, and
That's a deep track, isn't it?
I know it is.
He dug way down for that.
I'm digging way of it. And then there's Richard Nixon, who's a Capricorn.
Well, you ruined it now.
I know, but he's not a crook. Now, I just want to thank everybody for the birthday wishes and Happy New Year to everyone.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Martin.
I was going to yield back my time to Commissioner Farnsworth in the event that he forgot anything about the FSU bowl game that he may have. How about the basketball team the other night? Neither one of us did.
Oh, it's a rough night on poor Commissioner Farnsworth here. Anybody else an FSU fan? You might want to exit the building. Commissioner Glanzer.
I just want to say it's going to be a great 2019. I'm looking forward to it, and there's so much going on in Newberry that just thrills me to pieces. I want to remind you, don't forget to come to that community dinner on the 27th and every Sunday after that at 5 o'clock at MLK Center. It's really going to be a great deal. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. I wanted to announce Saturday, January 19th. I know we're throwing a lot of dates out at you at 6 p.m. at the St. New Paul Missionary Baptist Church. And we'll make sure that address is up on our website. There's going to be a benefit program to help Minister Judy Hassan Lewis, who's been hospitalized. She's had a lot of health problems, and so a lot of her family and friends have come together and see if they can help raise a little bit of money to help offset those costs. So Saturday, January 19th at 6 p.m. If you can make it there, I know that she would appreciate it. At New St. Paul Missionary Baptist Church. It's 25213 Northwest 8th Avenue, but we'll make sure we put that somewhere. We'll have it. I'll put it on Facebook, but we'll post the flyer up as well. Okay. February 9th is the next Farm Share events at American Legion, so go ahead and put that on your calendar now. If you can help volunteer, great. If you know a family who can use the help, awesome. Let them know. The food will start being distributed at 9 a.m. Volunteers get there at about 7, so hopefully we'll have some young volunteers who want to get involved show up. It's a very worthwhile event, very gratifying. I think last time we fed just under 500 families. So February 9th, Farm Share American Legion. That's a partnership between the American Legion, Newberry High School, City of Newberry, and Oakview Middle School. Let's see. We talked about the state of the city, the chamber. Don't forget MLK Day, 11:30 at City Hall. Please stay for all of the events. We would love to have you there. And finally, you know, it's not very often that a city gets a city manager who is willing to drop everything at a moment's notice and drive a couple of hours late on a weeknight. It's even rarer to find a city manager who will drop everything on a moment's notice and out of his own pocketbook go out and buy a tuxedo at a moment's notice. But as some of you know who follow me on social media, I got a last-minute invitation to the Governor's Ball. I think it was on Monday. The Governor's Ball was on Tuesday. And along with that invitation came the opportunity to talk to someone on Governor Santa's staff about USDA. And so what was supposed to be a 5-minute conversation turned into probably a 30-minute conversation. City manager and I had a great time driving up there. He's a beautiful man in a tux. If you didn't see the pictures, he really brings it out. And right before his birthday, that was his birthday present, was his tuxedo. So he donated his birthday this year to the city of Newberry, and we had a great conversation. So it was really worthwhile, and so
You should wear that to the next commission.
I think at the state of the city, we'll go black tie.
I am now looking for opportunities to wear that thing. I could be wearing it. You could just see me here at work one day. 'Cause I've got that thing, by God, I'm going to wear it.
I'm going to show up to school in mine, you know, just wear them around, you know. You might see my wife and I at McDonald's, really dressed up, you know. But it was great, and
I think we have a conference call scheduled this week now to talk with Enterprise Florida about the opportunity of bringing USDA to the city of Newberry. And with that, I believe that wraps up my comments. Public comment. We appreciate you guys coming out on a chilly night. Ms. Rose, you said you were here to talk about something. Come on.
Would you like my name again, ma'am? Make it easier on you. Chris Rose II. Right here at large to Libertarian Party, Florida. All right. Well, happy birthday to y'all. Let's celebrate the birthdays. The reason I want to come out tonight, well, one, I like seeing y'all every now and then. It's kind of my thing. I pay attention to what my local legislators are doing. I appreciate the opportunity. And I don't know if y'all have, are aware of this or not, but about 15% of the federal government is shut down right now. And with that is creating some golden opportunities for volunteerism, something that libertarians are big on and whatnot. I've got friends of mine all across the country within the National Libertarian Party that are assisting in cleanups on various federal properties, federal parks, such stuff like that. I haven't been able, unfortunately, to travel out of state to any of those. I mostly volunteer around here, surrounding counties. Unfortunately, I was one county over from some friends of mine in Brevard County, a little bit closer to home here, they was on a federal piece of property over there. They picked up the trash on the beach, and then was told they had to actually leave the trash on the beach because they would not let them assist in any way because that was the responsibility of the federal government, even though they weren't doing it, they weren't able to do it, so it's just sitting there. So I'm not, I don't think that, any of that necessarily going on here. I wouldn't think that, y'all would let it happen, but I found this opportunity in front of me to encourage every one of my local elected officials to, sometimes we get too wrapped up in the letter of the law sometimes and not the intent of the law or the spirit of why the law was formed. So just wanted to use this to encourage everybody in front of me right now to, in any cases, whatever cases, try to, always look for, where's the spirit of the law in this, in any situation. Use that there's nothing stronger than the heart of a volunteer, right? And I see a lot of that in our area. Let's harness that. Let's continue, that spirit into 2019 right here. I appreciate everything that, everybody in front of me has done for that so far. So just wanted to encourage you. With that, I'd like to yield back the remaining amount of my time to Commissioner Farnsworth so he can tell us about that beautiful FSU ball game this year.
We better hope that 2019 is a really good football season.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Mr. Manager.
Just in response to that, if you know a group of volunteers from Brevard County that would like to pick up trash, I know a city that we would welcome them. We would never tell them they have to put it back. We'd actually provide them with a dumpster and they could discard it all.
Absolutely. And on that note, the Farm Share on February 9th is a beautiful example of exactly what Mr. Rose is talking about, because it's we can help people who are in need without having them to come here and have this body be the body that does it. We can all come together and help feed families that need it. Are there any other public comments? Hearing none, we are adjourned.